Okay, so I just wanted to jump in here real quick and show you how to do a UV edit with the new Blender, because I couldn't find a good tutorial and I found out how to do screencasting, so let's go. So this is my toolbox that I've been working on today. It's pretty simple, nothing too complex. I'm just going to show you how to break it down and make it easier for you to UV unwrap with all the tools in Blender. Okay, so first off, this is the editor, obviously. I assume you know how to go into tab mode and look at all your faces that you have, and you can switch between the face, the edge, and the vertices, but we're going to stick to the faces for this because you have to have a face selected in order to do the UV. So in here we have the behemoth of the UV. Okay, so if I go into tab mode over here, you can see it deselects everything. Okay, so we want to make sure that this is selected whenever we're using the UV. And then press tab to go into the object edit mode. And so what you notice over here, I deselect, I press A, and then it selects everything in this one. But over here, if I press A, it'll select it only while I'm hovering in this window. And this is important for using the UV tool. So when I got all of this selected, I can go up here, do unwrap. Now the unwrap they got right here, it does pretty good, but it's for like base unwraps. What we want to focus on is the Smart UV project. So by selecting that, it'll do the default. The default is perfect for making sure that none of our UVs overlap. So we press OK, and you see nothing changed because everything is good with this model. But what we want to do is we want to be able to select each of these faces only within the specific material. So what we do to do that is we use this editor, which is located under our material properties, and we select the first one and do select. You can also do deselect if you no longer want that, but select selects the material that is needed, and it also appears in here. And so with that, we go UV, unwrap, Smart UV, OK. And from here, what we can do is we can actually drag this by clicking G and moving it outside of the box. Alright, so that's the first step to it. Then we want to deselect and select the metal. Okay, now you see that was off. So we do this, unwrap, Smart UV again, and boom. Have it like that. We drag it outside of the box to make sure none of our UVs on that overlap. And then we do the top. Select, UV, unwrap, Smart UV. Okay. And again, we drag it outside of the box. Okay. So back in this window, we press A to select everything. And now we have our different sections of our different material. And this is what allows us to move around our UV, and it won't change this in the process. So we go here. A shortcut to select only a single block would be L. But to select everything, we're just going to click and drag. And then we're going to shrink by pressing S. This one's a lot smaller. Okay. And then we do the same thing over here for the drawers. Make sure that it's all lined up properly. Then we select this bottom part, move it up, see how much room we've used up here, and then we can shrink it down a little bit more maybe rotate it that way if we need to by pressing R, G, down, shrink, G, and now we want to match these to these. So you can do this as long as you don't click anywhere else. Press S, and you can shrink it down to be about the size of the drawers. And then you can move it over, and we got that isolated. And then we move this and do the same thing. We know this is the top. Made it a little bit smaller, but that's okay. Then we'll move it here, and we'll try to move this a little bit closer. Just remember not to overlap any of your UVs. Then you can make this slightly bigger, or you can even just move 2 at a time, pressing Shift, G, that, and I'm gonna move these around just a second, just so that we use as much room as possible. Center it as much as possible. Make sure none of your UVs are going outside of the boundary. Okay, and then there's our UV. Now to export an EPS file, you can go right here where we were UV unwrapping, okay? And then you can do down here where it says export UV layout. You can save it under a specific name. So we'll say toolbox. And then here is important. We don't want a PNG image because that'll give us an actual image. We want this to be the EPS. So down arrow, EPS. And then the size 2048 to 2048 because that's our standard. And I like to have it in a separate file so that I don't lose it. And then export UV layout. Okay. And so to get this ready for Unreal, we're going to do one other thing, and that is right click the object selected, do shade auto smooth. That makes it where anything that needs to be round is round, anything that needs to be flat is flat. And then go File, Export, Wavefront, OBJ, and then we'll save it as Toolbox. I'm saving this in Downloads just to show you in this instance, but you can choose where you want it to be. And then make sure that this is selected only, and make sure that only one of your objects is selected that you're wanting to be under this OBJ file. Otherwise, you'll export everything that you have in Blender. And then down here, we're going to check Smooth Groups, and then do Export Wave OBJ. And that is it. That is how to do UV editing simply.